Hi, I'm Becky and I am the General Manager at the Lawrence Batley Theatre. My first experience with theatre was probably going to Panto when I was a child. Either, I can't remember if it was at the Lawrence Batley or in Wakefield, but I remember it was Snow White and I was frightened of the Wicked Queen and cried and had to leave at the interval. So, not the best start. And I suppose, other than the occasional school trip, I didn't really become madly interested in theatre until I was at university. As a teenager, my passion was definitely music, and I remember going to my first music festival when I was about 16 and just being totally blown away by it. Just seeing so many people in the same place, like cutting loose, and everybody there for the same reason. I'm full of energy and really excited. Made me think this is definitely what I want to do. I want to be involved in putting on live events and things like this where people can come together and just sort of forget about their everyday lives and have a great time and experience something all together as a group. So, following on from that, I studied English, Literature and Language at the University of Leeds, and that's when I really got involved in theatre, but also working in the music scene in the city. So, I started off writing reviews for different blogs and magazines, and I also started hassling anybody that I could get hold of to do work experience with them, and that gave me loads of really cool opportunities. I spent some time at different record labels and also writing for music magazines in London when I wasn't at uni. And after graduating, I moved down to London and spent a year down there where I interned in the press department at Atlantic Records, which was a really amazing experience. But unfortunately, London was hard, and I ran out of money pretty quickly. So I moved back up north and decided to do a master's in arts management at the University of Manchester. And that's when I started to think about doing things that were music, where I'd been like totally focused up until that point. And so through my masters, I got quite well networked in Manchester, and was fortunate enough to be offered the position of an apprentice working for Company Chameleon, who are a fantastic touring contemporary dance company based in Manchester. I started off there as the apprentice, and over 3 years worked my way up to company coordinator, and loved that job. And then in December last year, I decided it was time for a change, and was lucky enough to get the position of general manager at the LBT, where I've been for the last 5 months. My day to day as a general manager is totally different depending on what day of the week it is, what day of the year it is. It just varies so much. Generally speaking, my job is to support the chief exec to help look after the business side of the organisation. So that involves a ton of different things. So for one, I look after HR, so things like staff contracts, and also staff wellbeing, holidays, pay, all of those kinds of things. I also pull together the contracts for all of the companies that are visiting the theatre and liaise with them to make sure they've got all the information that they need, and that also that information is then passed on to the different departments within the building to try and make things run as smoothly as possible. I've got two staff who I look after, who are our office assistant and our sales and events coordinator, so I work really closely with them. And I also pick up just lots of random bits and bobs that people need support with from every different department of the organisation. I think the most challenging part of this job is just having to juggle all the different priorities. Obviously, we're a really, really busy theatre. We've got a cafe and a bar, a gallery, loads of different room hires, a performance almost every single day. Every month we pay about 60 people, and we've got about another 100 volunteers. So there's always a ton of different people to get back to think about what they're doing, and to sort of try and plan ahead as much as possible so that we try and keep on top of things. And the way that I deal with that is honestly just to write loads and loads of lists and post-it notes. And I'm really lucky to be surrounded by a great team who kind of help with everything, look after their own departments amazingly, and we try and keep on top of things as much as possible. I suppose a frustrating thing is that some days I can just be constantly replying to emails, having conversations with people in the office and answering the phone. So I sometimes feel like I'm not actually making much progress, even though that work's really important. So something I try and do is to write down every day a really important priority and then a less important priority, and try and get through those two things as well as dealing with everything else. And if I can get that done, then I can kind of go home at the end of the day relatively happy. But having said that, an important thing I've learned in this job particularly is that sometimes your time's not your own, and from the minute you walk into the door to the minute you leave, you could just be doing 100 different things that you didn't expect to come up that day, and that's okay too. What I like most about my job is also how different it is and how busy it is. There's no 2 days that are the same. And while sometimes that's really challenging, it also means that I get to be involved in lots of different aspects of the business, and I get to work with people who've got skill sets really different to mine and learn from them and chip into different things that I wouldn't ordinarily be involved in. And it makes me sort of really proud to see when something goes really well, or just when the building's really busy, or when the team are feeling really energized. We've got an exciting project coming up, and it feels like all of that hard work is paying off, and we've managed to sort of keep all of those plates spinning. The most memorable piece of advice I've been given is definitely to keep going and seeing as many different things as possible. I think it's really easy when you've got a lot going on at home, or you're really busy at work, to just think, oh, I'll just stay in this weekend, or I won't bother getting tickets for that. But actually, if you keep going to the cinema, you keep going to gigs, you keep going to the theatre, it keeps your imagination going, and you get to escape from work for a while, and it also just sort of reignites you to think, this is why it's worth it. This is why I do the thing that I love. This is why I've spent the last 3 days glued to my laptop just replying to emails, because I want to be a part of this. I want to make these really cool, exciting things happen. And then finally, my piece of advice that I would give to somebody who wanted to start a career in the theatre or as a general manager would be just to say yes to things. At the start of my career, I was very single minded about wanting to work in music, and actually, maybe I missed opportunities, and I could have sort of developed and learnt new things a lot earlier on. When I was offered the position of an administrator at a contemporary dance company, that just seemed like a crazy move to me. I wanted to work in marketing and in music, but thankfully I said yes to it, and it gave me the opportunity to work in an amazing organisation under great leadership, people that really tried to develop me as a practitioner, and it made me fall in love with something that I'd never thought was for me before. So I would just definitely say, take opportunities that come your way. What have you got to lose?